Good morning, good afternoon, and/or good evening. My name is Dar Sheely. This is my final presentation for the class Pedagogical Strategies for Cultural Competence at Adams State University, and this is for Dr. Curtis Garcia. So, throughout this class, the ongoing theme was how to take culturally competent teaching strategies from simple awareness in the beginning of the semester to action in our classrooms. So the first question that we answered in this class was, what is cultural competence? And the conclusion that I came to was that it is a never-ending process. And it starts with awareness of what's going on, reflecting on all of the intricacies of cultural diversity in your classrooms, and then taking action on how to celebrate that. It's about recognizing and valuing your student diversity, not just seeing it as something that needs to be offset, but rather something that is celebrated, and through that celebration, promoting equity and inclusion through your instruction and just in your overall classroom culture. Why this matters? It has a huge impact on student achievement and student engagement. It can reduce inequities in the classroom, it can build inclusive classroom environments, and it can strengthen your student-teacher relationships. The big thing on this is that when teachers are culturally competent, students are going to feel seen and supported, and that is going to lead to better engagement and overall more equitable outcomes. So, I broke this down into three main action items. The first action item here is going to be addressing your implicit biases. You have to recognize them because they're unconscious and they can go unseen. And then you have to use reflective decision making. So you have to reflect on those unconscious biases, recognize them, and then take action on how you're going to offset them and make sure that they don't show up in your classroom in a negative way. We learned about System 1 versus System 2 thinking. That really helped me frame implicit bias and break out of the System 1 thoughts and recognize what your System 1 thoughts are, and then using System 2 thinking to act upon that. And all of this helps you monitor your grading and just interactions. This was mainly from Hockett and the Kirwan Institute. These are two of the sources that we looked at. Hockett was explaining how bias operates unconsciously in everyday decisions, and the Kirwan Institute was just looking at the long-term impact of implicit bias in education. Both of those were very eye-opening. It really showed how bias can influence, your expectations as a teacher, and it's shown me to slow down my thinking and to question assumptions before I'm making decisions in the classroom. So, the second action item is to build healthy relationships and cultural humility. You got to learn what your students' backgrounds and experiences are. We had a couple of projects in this class where we did a deep dive into the different demographics in our school districts and in our schools specifically, and that was very eye-opening to me. I learned a lot. You have to practice active listening. You have to listen to your students and make sure that you're not making any assumptions when you shouldn't be. Through all this, you're going to create a supportive classroom environment, and you're going to value your student choice. So it goes without saying, I think it's the most commonly known fact in education that strong relationships are foundational to being an effective teacher. I really enjoyed the Rita Pearson TED Talk. I had seen snippets of that during professional development hours, but it was nice to sit down and watch that whole TED Talk. It's really inspiring. And this is my biggest thing. I am a people person. I was in the restaurant industry before I became a teacher, and this is my first year. And so building relationships is my strength in teaching. I really have a great rapport with all of my students, and that's I've been able to lean on that and really fix any problems or prevent any potential issues just by having such a solid rapport with my students. All right, third action item is asset-based thinking. So I touched on this earlier. It's important to focus on student strengths and not their deficits. It's important to look at your students' cultural diversity and their backgrounds as an asset in your classroom. You can use that to frame real world examples, especially I'm a science teacher. And so when I'm teaching, I try and find real world examples that my students can connect to through their culture. You can do that through community asset mapping and community walks. This was an awesome concept that I had never heard of before this class, and I think that's really awesome. This class has really just been inspiring overall to take more action in the future. I have been, swamped obviously as a first year teacher and being in grad school full time. However, I would love to really get involved in my community in this way in the future, next year when I have more time. And like I said, a lot of this is integrating cultural knowledge into your lessons. And so instead of the big picture here is instead of focusing on what students lack, and now think about what they can bring. And building that knowledge and experience through community and using that as a learning tool. All of this was backed up by Ginsberg and Zafir, I believe is how you say that. Ginsberg was just really looking at how educators can engage in communities to, understand their student identities and find their strengths through their identities. And then Zafir was looking at how their big thing was the community walks. They were looking at how community walks can help educators understand and connect with their students and their environment. So, biggest applications in my classroom so far that I have found is connecting them to real world contexts, like I said earlier, just incorporating any kind of experiences that my students might have through their background, and also making sure that I'm differentiating. I was good at differentiating before, but I'm even better now just because I want to be sure that I am offering multiple paths to learning for all different types of backgrounds and identities. And so that's been the biggest application. I also really enjoyed that paper we wrote or it was a discussion post on the lost/adjuster student. I have one student in particular that definitely fits into that mold, and writing that discussion post and thinking critically about how I can better support that student, I think bettered that student's education and will better other students' education in the future in my classroom. So I would like, whoever's listening to consider the following. To think of a time when a teacher made you feel included or maybe excluded and what they did. I remember I had a teacher that would always greet students by name every day, which I also try to do. They would always ask students about our interests. They would always ask me about skating. I grew up skateboarding. They always wanted to talk to me about that, and they just were really intentional about connecting to the things that their students cared about. I've been trying to do that in my classroom. Like we were in our energy and resources unit. We just finished it in my earth science classroom, but when we were in it, I used examples from Minecraft to demonstrate like a few concepts for energy and resources, because Minecraft is really good about, the whole thing is mining and refining and building things through resources. And so I used Minecraft as an example just because I know that a lot of my students love Minecraft. And so I think the better that we can incorporate student interests, the better engaged they're going to be and the better their education will be overall. So, big next steps. Continue to grow. It's all about having a growth mindset. Reflecting on your biases and how you can recognize those and continue to act upon those. Not upon those, but continue to act in a way that tries to offset your implicit biases. All this can be done through designing culturally sustaining curriculum and expanding student voice and agency. It's cultural competence is ongoing, and I plan to keep improving through reflection, curriculum design, and just listening to my students, building those strong relationships. And also getting involved in community. That's a big next step for me. Main takeaways here. Cultural competence is a journey, not a destination. It is never ending. We are always continually gaining awareness, reflecting on that, and then taking action. It requires intentionality behind that action. And the biggest takeaway here, which I kind of knew going into this, but it served as a great reminder that every student deserves to feel seen and valued. So here are some key references that, all of these concepts I covered in this presentation derived from. Project Readies were amazing. I loved those modules. I would love to design something like that in the future, just because I think that curriculum is very user-friendly. It's very conducive to real absorption of the information. And I just really, I thought that was really awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I did go a little bit over 10 minutes. Apologies. I just am really passionate about this, and I really enjoyed this class. So thank you, Dr. Garcia. I really appreciate it.